Hey guys, I'm Jim Fuge, and today's lesson I'm going to talk to you about getting a great guitar sound. What is the right way to get a guitar sound? Great guitar sound. Okay, so here we go. Here's the stuff you're not going to find in a lot of places or maybe anywhere. Here's the trick. Okay? Everybody listening up? So, and I'm not being sarcastic now. You have a guitar, right? Okay? I'm plugged into my Fender. I'm not sure if you can see that back there. That's an old Fender. 1967 Fender Deluxe Reverb Original, blackface, for any of you guys who know all that stuff. And so it's a great amp. It was hot wired by a friend of mine who knows what he's doing. And what that means is kind of changing the circuitry a little bit, doing some tweaks, maybe getting a little more gain and stuff like that out of it. Okay? Last but not least, I'm using the only two chords I use to plug in. I'm using no effects, by the way. I'm right directly into the amp. The only chords that I use are George L's and Mogami. Okay, Mogami I use more for my studio, but it's still fine. And I was using George L's before they were George L's, when they were Bill Lawrence's 25 years ago. But because they are the best chords out there, because they have the least capacitance and it lets the maximum signal come through, and the least amount of interference and stuff like that. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, right? That's how you get a great guitar sound. So here's the secret, guys. If your guitar doesn't sound great going from the guitar with a good chord right to the amp, if it doesn't sound great, stop. Forget about effects. Effects are effects. That's why they call them effects. They're the icing on the cake. Never, ever, ever substitute using an effect to make your guitar sound better. Yeah, if you want much more distortion, you want that effect, and even I wouldn't use distortion. I don't use distortion pedals really that much at all. Or if you want delay or reverb, yeah, that's different. But I'm saying if you want to say, oh, I need this to make my guitar sound heavier, I need this overdrive, I need this, I need that, you shouldn't use. I mean, they're nice effects when you want to use them, but your guitar should sound awesome from the guitar right to the amp. And if it doesn't, you need to find out why. Okay? So let's talk about it. Listen to this. Right? So that's right to the amp. That's not even that loud. Now I'm going to turn my volume down. Too much bending, I suppose. Sounds good. Nice clarity. Okay, my point is, and here's the lesson, right? So, we got three things. Three very important components. Guitar, a chord, and an amp. Okay, now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you run a really good guitar these days, now I'm not saying if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. It's two separate things. But hold on. If a good guitar these days probably costs $2,500. Okay, it's hard to get a really good guitar less than $2,500. A lot of parts go into a guitar. That being said, Fender makes some of the assembly line stuff they're making now. It's really not that bad. I mean, if you get the Fender Deluxe Strat, American Deluxe Strat, it's about $1,200. You know what? It's really not a bad guitar. Could it be improved? Of course it could. But it's really not a bad guitar. So that's an example where you could get less than $2,500 and decent. But yeah, well, a $2,500 Paul Reed Smith or Heritage, actually, which is what this is, by the way. This is an old Heritage, which they don't even make anymore. I just thought I'd point that out. And it's not even on Heritage's website of their old guitars. I think they forgot that they made this model. How funny is that? This is 1987, this model. How cool is that? Because most of their guitars are look like Les Pauls or whatchamacallit, like the jazz boxes. They make great guitars, by the way, Heritage. And I'm not endorsing anybody. I'm just telling you what I like. So, the guitar, right? Let's talk about it. The guitar, my point is, everything matters in the chain. The chain right now is guitar, a good chord, and an amp. So let's talk about the guitar. If you have a guitar with cheap wood, this is mahogany all around, right? And it's solid. I mean, it does matter. Mine's solid. It's not bolt-on. See that? No bolts. Not that that I mean, it does matter a little bit, but you know, the old Strats sound great too, so whatever. But this is real mahogany. It matters, and that's why sometimes, you know, you can get a $400 guitar in Guitar Center, or you can get a $2,000 guitar. Guess what? It's the wood and has a lot to do with it. Real wood, as opposed to pressed wood or whatever the heck they're using these days. So that makes this guitar sound much better. You can't replace that. Even the glue that was used on the guitar matters. Everything matters on the guitar. Okay? So a $2,500 guitar is going to use outstanding glue. I know, it sounds silly, but it's true. Okay? Next thing is the hardware. Okay? So, and you know, in the accessories, next very important thing is the pickups, right? Well, now, you know, on a $400 guitar, I can guarantee you my life that the pickups are going to be, at best, maybe a 1 out of 10, okay? So, you know, these pickups, and this is a heritage guitar, this is a good guitar, I still swap these pickups out. Now, I'm not suggesting, if you don't have the money, that's fine, but, you know, if you can buy, like I said, that American Strat, look around, that's got decent pickups, it really does. They're not 10 out of 10, but they're decent. So start with a good guitar. If you're really a bit of a nut and you want to get a great sound, and this is probably more to the intermediate and advanced players, because that's what you're going after. And the guys who do have great guitars, these are the key things that are going to make your guitar sound great. Great pickups. Now for me, this is just personal preference, and I'm not endorsing anybody, but these are Lindy Fralins, and I think his pickups really are the best. I tried quite a bit, and the key with a great pickup is the clarity. You want great clarity. Because once you turn up that amp and stuff like that, you can kick it, you know. But you know, if it's all mud, it's not worth anything. So his pickups got great clarity, and the same thing too. When you turn all the way down, it sounds great, you know. So that's the key on the pickups. A good bridge matters too, right? And everything else in between. But those are the key things, right? So don't underestimate the pickups, because those are the things that are making the guitar sound the way it does. Now the next thing is, let's see, I don't think I forgot anything. The wood is very important. So just, you know, you want to get a good guitar. A good guitar is key. And really evaluate what the wood is that you're getting in the guitar. What kind of wood is it? What kind of pickups come with it? If they're decent pickups, hey, that's good. You know, you don't have to spend more money, but you know, I can't tell you. I think these ones are the best. I really haven't played anything better than this guy's pickups. This next thing is the chord. The chord matters completely. It's not BS, because, like I said, it's letting the maximum signal in with the least interference. And it does matter. It absolutely does matter. So I'm telling you right now, George L's, I think, are the best. I haven't found any chords better than his, and I don't think I've had one problem with his chords in over 25 years. Mogami's great too. He's another guy, you know. But George L's, I mean, Mogami's great too. He's on the money too. But the thing about George L's is that you can make them any length you want too. You know, you can buy the pre-made lengths, but you could also make them any length. So that's nice too. You know, I mean, you can do whatever you want with them, where nobody else gives you that option. Something to think about. And last but not least, the amplifier, right? Now, there's a lot of cheap amps on the market. Let's face it. I mean, I'm a fan of all old vintage stuff. That's just me, and I don't think they make anything better than the old days, personally. So that's just me, and I do believe that they sound better, as well as tube amps. I think tube amps sound way better than solid state. So I guess you could call it a personal preference thing, but if you're a guitar nut, you probably know this, and you say, hey, you listen to the old Van Halen stuff, trust me, he ain't playing through solid state, he's playing through old tubes. You know what I mean? So, and on that note of Van Halen, right, I guarantee you, 100%, Eddie Van Halen's sound is his guitar through a good chord. Who knows, he could have been using Bill Lawrence chords too. Through his 69 Super Lead, whatever it is, 69, 70 Super Lead, whatever he's got. You know, I guarantee his sound is that good right through the amp. Now, what else does he use? I don't know. He uses, I'm not an expert, but he uses a phase shifter, but that's an effect. That's the whole point. I don't think he uses a distortion pedal, says, I need distortion. You know what I mean? He uses a flanger from sometimes, right, for Unchained and things like that. He uses, I guess he's used a while once in a blue moon, but uses his old Echoplex reverb thing, you know, but that's a reverb. That's an effect. He doesn't say, I need a great distortion pedal. How did he get his sound? Well, let's evaluate Eddie real quick. He has a nice old guitar, right? It was a Chauvel neck or something like that. He has I think it's 1957 Gibson PAFs, which, by the way, that's what these are modeled after, except for the Strat pickups. This is what this is modeled after. So the pickups that he had are great, fantastic. That's one of the key pieces in his ingredient. And he had a 69 Marshall Super Lead. That's a great head. right? Even on its own. I think he probably got it modified to get it a little hotter. I don't know. There's a jury of people say he definitely did, and people say he definitely didn't. I think he may have got it a little hot wired a bit to let in a little more, juice. And he had the Variac thing too, right? And I'm not just talking about. Let's talk about Jimmy Page for a minute too. I'm not sure exactly what Marshall he used, and I know he used old Fenders and stuff too. Obviously Les Pauls a lot. Sometimes a Telecaster, but listen, he had old great guitars, old Les Paul 57 or 8, whatever his Les Paul was. A great old Telecaster. Those guitars would be great in those days. The pickups were great. You didn't have to swap out new pickups. So, like, the guitar matters. Yeah, I'm sure he had a good chord, and he was going through an old Marshall, an old Fender. Maybe he got it hot wired. I probably think less that Page got it hot wired than Eddie Van Halen. So Jimmy Page's sound is phenomenal, right? We love his sound. You notice he's got a lot of clarity. So, Jimmy Page is not stepping on a stomp box for overdrive. He ain't doing it. Maybe once in a blue moon, maybe. But, for the most part, these guys, the best sound is straight from the guitar to the amp. And don't forget the chord is very important. So what to do with your amp? So if you get, if you buy an old amp, you have a much better chance of getting a great sound, period. Because they made them so much better in those days. The old Fenders, high watts. I also have a nice old high watt. And you can even get a Trainer, is a bass head, which you can turn into a Marshall Plexi, which probably you guys guys know this better than me, but so that's it. So if you can get a great sound just from your guitar to the amp, and your guitar sound should sound great. I have no effects on right now. If it doesn't sound great, evaluate what is the weak link in your sound. What is the weak link in your sound? Hey, so you know what? This is a decent guitar. How could that be? And that's a decent amp. I said, oh, you know what? The stock pickups that I have with this guitar, what are they? They might be pickups. Man, if they're pickups, like a 5 out of 10, and you put in, Lindy Frail, whatever you want to put in, you put in really good pickups, oh man, your ears are going to be blown away. Okay? So now let's say you have great pickups, you have a really great guitar, but maybe the amp is not that great. If you plug your supposedly great guitar into a great amp, an old Marshall Plexi or something like that, you'd be like, whoa, your ears are going to be floored. So these three things in the chain, and by the way, so the next thing, so if you have a great amp and guitar, and then you think you have a decent chord, do yourself a favor, get a George L's, plug it in, and listen to the difference. It's hard to hear maybe till your ears become trained, but man, will you be surprised how much clarity comes through in your sound. So definitely don't discount the chord. It's very important. So again, that's all you need to do is have a really decent guitar. Of course, the better the guitar, the better chance you have of having a great sound. But everything matters in this. This is forget about the effects. Everything matters in this little chain: guitar, chord, and amp. Everything matters. And now you go to the amp. Hey, well, what kind of amp is? Let's say you got an old one. That's good, right? So now the next thing you want to say is the tubes. I hope you're using tubes, because there's no better sound you can get than tubes. So. And that's all the stuff on the old records. Zeppelin, these guys ain't using solid state, man. They're using tubes. What kind of tubes do you have in your amp? Tubes make the world of a difference. Okay, and I'm not even an amp tech guy. I'm just saying. But we evaluated the guitar really closely. We said, okay, what kind of wood you got in your guitar? What kind of pickups? What kind of amp you got? Okay, the circuitry is the circuitry. You're not going to change much of that. You could do little tweaks. That's the hot wiring. But as far as the what else can you change in the amp? The tubes. Man, if you got old piece of junk tubes, that's like, it's kind of like, pickups. If you put in nice, new old stock pickups, some really nice tubes, your amp will sound amazing, right? And last but not least, on the guitar, even the strings matter too. If you got junky strings, put on some good strings that are really bright and kick butt, man, and really make the guitar shine. Even the strings matter. So I'm saying everything matters, right? And also, probably last but not least, I have a lock on this thing. I have a Kaler that came with it, and that's fine. But every time you put a lock on a guitar, if you don't need it, I definitely would not put it on. And in some ways, I regret having a lock, to be honest with you, because once you do that, the bridge is different, right? The bridge is changed now, okay? And once you put a lock on and take it away from how the bridge should have been originally on most normal guitars, you lose sustain, okay? You can try and get back sustain by a luthier who really knows what they're doing, and maybe you could put stainless steel screws into the wood and stuff like that, and really get it on there good and tight into the wood, so that the sustain is still within the whole hardware of the guitar, right? And the same thing for pickups. And I believe, trust me, I'm not a technical person. And same thing for pickups. You want to make sure that they're mounted into the actual wood so that they really resonate the sound of the guitar, as opposed to just superficially. You want to really resonate them into the body of the guitar. Okay, little things like that matter. But that's also what you get when you buy a great guitar. Okay, that's also what you get when you buy a great guitar. So, okay, so the neck and the body, the wood, pickups, everything matters. But the key things: pickups. Do you have a lock or not? And have you lost sustain as a result of it? What kind of strings? Okay, the chord, right? George L's preferred, and the amp. And then the amp, if you got a good old amp, see if you can replace the tubes. See if the tubes need to be replaced. You know, so you want to make sure the new tube sounds great. And again, this is personal preference, but I prefer NOS, new old stock, meaning the old tubes, because some of the new tubes are alright. The Slovtek, whatever, however you pronounce that Russian name, those are pretty decent actually. They're not bad. Chinese I would stay away from. They're not quality tubes. But again, I'm not a tech guy, but I personally like the old, Mullards and the old English tubes. I mean, they're expensive, and they do wear like iron, including the Sylvanias too. They wear like iron. So it all depends on your preference. But so that's it. So now, and last but not least, so once you finally got a great guitar sound, right? This is the beauty of it all. When you do put effects into the chain, it'll sound that much better. It'll sound that much better. The effects will sound better because you have a great foundation you're starting with. You're not starting with a okay sound and you're trying to make it sound better. If anything, if you start with a okay sound and you put effects on it, if anything, it'll make it sound worse because you're really amplifying a bad sound. You don't want to do that. You want to start with a great foundation. If your guitar through the amp doesn't sound great, check everything in the chain. I really mean it. Until you find what's making it should sound great. Not okay, great. Okay? And once you do that, man, when you add effects to it, it's great. It's like it should be the icing on the cake. Okay? As opposed to trying to replace a good sound. Right? Now, I don't have anything against distortion pedals and stomp boxes like that, but I rarely use them. Unless you feel the need to. If anything, I actually step on an EQ when I take a lead break to just give myself a little boost, and that's about it. And that gives me, because my sound is so good to begin with, and this is low. I'm only on volume 2, by the way. When I'm really loud, this thing is kicking. So you can really appreciate the crunch of this amp and the clarity too. But when I do a lead break, I step on an EQ and I use that as a boost. And if anything, since my sound is so good, I can actually crunch me up a little more too, because it's only accentuating a great sound to begin with, right? But if I actually had a bad sound and I stepped on an EQ for a lead break, it would actually sound awful because it's really making it amplified how bad of a sound I have, right? So you want to have a great sound, guitar right to amp, no effects, zero, okay? And if you don't, evaluate everything in the chain. Right? Pickups will usually matter for a lot, but the wood, if you got bad wood, you're going to have to get another guitar or swap out the body or neck, but that's not fun to do. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Chord is easy. You could do that. You have to get a good chord. No question about it. That's not a myth. That's absolutely true. It's engineering, too, when you think about it, and a good amp. Okay, now if you got some of these amps today, these modeling amps, I'm not a fan of. Everybody's different, but if you plug yourself into an old amplifier, these are the guys who are really nuts who want to get great sounds. Eddie Van Halen didn't use a line 6. And if you love Eddie Van Halen's sound, or guys like that, Brian May didn't use a line 6. No offense, line 6, sorry. I know they're great stuff, but it's all digital, it's transistor and stuff. It's not solid state, it's not tubes. Brian May plugged himself into 15 AC30s, Vox AC30s. That's why his sound sounds like that. And what else? Brian May's a great example too. Why is Brian May's sound amazing? Let's talk about it. I'm sure he's using a good chord. Okay, now we got that done. Amplifier. He's using old Vox AC30s. Beautiful amplifiers. They're old tube amps. Do you think he's using yucky tubes? I don't think so. I think he's using great tubes too. So he has great old amp. That's great until itself anyway, because it was really well made with great tubes. It's got 2/3 of the equation done. Guess what else he has? He has an awesome guitar that he made out of a tree in his backyard, right? Something like that. So can't get better than that. You can't get more craftsmanship than that. And he uses old, really great pickups, which I can't think of the name offhand. I think maybe Baron or something like that. Old, great old pickups. So his chain is complete. He's got an awesome guitar with really unique wood he's gonna get a great sound, man. He's he's there. He's got a great chord, and he's got awesome amps. He doesn't need he doesn't step on distortion pedals. I'm telling you right now, man. That's his guitar right through his amp. So anything he adds to that, if he wants to add a delay or reverb, it's beautiful icing on the cake. So that, my friends, is the way to get a great sound. Guitar, chord, amp. Period. No exceptions. And when you get that really great sound just with those three things, man, you're in. And any effects you add on top of that will be awesome. So, I hope you learned a lot today. And I'm Jim Fuge, and this is the Guitar by Jimmy method of learning. I have a lot of lessons out there, basic, intermediate, and advanced, and I hope you check them out, check my videos out. I think you'll enjoy them. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope this helps you very much in your musical career.